Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to the Divine Union podcast. And if this is your first time joining us, well, welcome. Today is a beautiful Thursday evening that I'm recording this, and I'm really excited to talk all about the balancing act of life because it's a theme that is alive in my own life of how to balance. For those of you who kept looking at my YouTube, I got a really cool new shirt here. It's a funky French shirt, and the armpits are cut out. But I think it's very cool and funny, so I love it. I'm wearing it today, and it's a gift from my mother, hand me down. And balance. I want to talk about this theme of balance because it's so alive in my life. All of these ways that I notice myself coming off balance. And it's a forever dance to come into greater center in career, in life, in relationship, with work, with play, all of these dynamics. Masculine and feminine energies are active and passive energies. This is why I can't shut up about balance. I love this theme of balance because it's so alive in all areas of life. And yeah, something that I'm noticing I'm navigating is this dynamic of work and play and like doing and being. And I was, for example, today so intense. This past weeks, 3 weeks, honestly, a lot of my life, I can be like this, so intense with work, 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 not really taking breaks. My breaks are to go grab a piece of fruit from the fridge, which, as I'm sure you all know, it's not really a mental break, like it's different than closing the eyes, going inwards, pausing, reflecting on something I did today, reflecting on my strategy, not just doing from action or from fear or anxiety or not having enough time. So I'm just pumping stuff out. And so I had this moment today where I went out on my deck and I started to dance. I brought my speaker. It's the evening here, and I'm blasting like reggaeton, a whole mix, some Latin music. And I start dancing and I'm starting to feel so good. And I'm like, oh, I missed this in my day. I missed these weeks. And I was feeling so good. And from feeling that, I'm like, oh, yeah, I want to go out. I want to go have a glass of wine. I want to go to the Soho House. I want to go play, talk to people. And I notice I can go into these extremes sometimes of like all focus, all work, no play. And then like once I open up the play, maybe then I'll go, play for a while and not say play and not work. But for me, it's the extreme of I have a good day and I'm playing, if I haven't allowed myself to enjoy in a while, then I'll notice like, oh, I don't want to go back and work and focus. First, if there was more balance in the day of like, okay, I'm going to work for 5 hours. I'm going to take a break, do a little yoga. I'm going to work for another 3 hours. Then I'm going to go out, go to a cafe, have a tea, be around people, then go back to work for a little or go back and do some self-development. That's not really work. That's a combo of play and inner work. But like allowing myself to have that balance so I don't have to go into these extremes. And I say this because I feel we all do it. And this can even play out in relationship of balancing of, if you're listening and you're more of a feminine being and you're so focused on the connection in relationship. And wait, I'm like, do I want to go down that thread? I'm going to go back to the career and then I'm going to tease out the relationship. And so it's letting self do both because it's realizing that if we're always doing, then we're not actually having time to reflect on our business. So it's important to make that time to be like, what's working? What's not? How's my energy been this month? How do I want to feel this month, next month? Like, am I accomplishing my goals? Like all the things that are on my list, whether it's like you're working on a book, you're working on projects, you also want to nurture your friendships, you also want to nurture your family relationships, like checking in on all of these areas that are important to your life and your goals based on what they are, and like checking in, am I doing that? Am I prioritizing those things to help also bring it back into balance? And where can I bring more balance into my life if I'm off balance in some areas? Or even when it comes to career, if you're a coach, thinking about like what's the balance? Am I spending so much time online that I'm not actually seeing people in person? I've been there, by the way. I was that before I came to Chicago when I was in Mexico. And I'm like in all these amazing communities, spiritual communities, but I'm not actually like spending enough time around people. And I'm just like focusing online. So noticing that and then coming into the balance. Or am I around people all the time that I don't have time alone with my inner world, doing self development stuff, reflecting? That was also me in my New York days before I changed my life and I changed my inner being. And then I went over Uber Hermit. So now it's like coming back to the balance of both being in connection with others and being in connection with self and not losing either or. Because both are essential for our fulfillment, for our emotional fulfillment, connection with others, for our spiritual fulfillment, connection with self and with God. And that requires you to be alone or be in nature. And so it's noticing, what is the balance? Am I in balance? Where am I off balance? Where am I more in the mind and not in the heart? Where am I so in the heart, but I'm not actually planning and making goals and thinking about life strategically? And how do we bring the mind and the heart to work together? Because that's what we want. We need the mind. The ego is actually a good thing in many regards. You don't want to let it rule you. And you needed to learn how to work with the heart, to tune into what does the heart feel and how does the body feel, and bringing both parties online and working in tandem. Yeah. I'm like, let me feel in. I feel like that's got depth. So now we're even transition to relationship. I've been on both sides. I've been hyper in my feminine. I have a very strong feminine, so that desire for connection is strong, so much so that at times I can lose sense of self, that individuality, that sovereignty, that's masculine energy. I can forego that sometimes for the sake of the connection. And so it's knowing that if you're can skew that way, no matter if you're a man or a woman, gender nonconforming individual, if you skew more in that feminine energy, where do you come back to the balance of also having sovereignty, being in your own energy? I'm going to disconnect. I'm going to go do my yoga. I'm going to go do my self-development. I'm going to think about and process that situation alone, not with you, partner. And it's having that balance, because that's what makes us all strong and empowered, and not overly dependent or reliant on either party, because then we go into codependence, and that's a product of lack of balance in any situation. Codependence with food, with work, any sort of addiction. It's be when we're off balance and we feel like we don't have agency over our own lives, don't have control, we're not centered. And so in relationship, if you skew more in that feminine desire for connection, then it's noticing, where can I come back to self? Where do I notice maybe I have fear of us losing our connection if I take space, and working through it to then come back to self? Or the balance, if you're more in the like independence in relationship, then noticing, where can I also build bridges for us to work together, for me to express curiosity about partner, for me to allow them to do things for me, and for me to receive, for me to sink back and not always suggest that make the plan, or empower my partner to make the plans. So there's that balance there as well. And our balance of our masculine and feminine energy. So where if we're off balance and we're maybe more in the people pleasing, the being agreeable and amenable, and maybe you're not fully expressing your own independent thought, sovereign expression, noticing that. Or maybe you're super expressed and voicing your needs and your boundaries, but you're not as open and attuned to partner, or you miss things from partner, and noticing that balance. Or maybe there's an imbalance of roles where one partner is always initiating and one's always responsive desire, and noticing how do we bring more balance to that dynamic. I'm going to lift my arms up because I love this shirt. So it's playing with the balance always. And it's so fascinating to me. And it doesn't have to be like I liken it, I say masculine, feminine energies, but it can just it could be our active and passive energies. I use that as a framework because people talk about it and understand it like those energetics, but it doesn't have to be that way. It's learning how to balance our yin and our yang. Those I go out and do in the world, I go inwards and be. I work and I play, right? The feminine's the play, the creative, the chaos. And then I work, I'm focused, I'm goal oriented, the masculine energy or the active energy, shall we say. I initiate, I lead, I direct in relationship, I respond, I follow, I receive in relationship, I ask questions. My heart leads me, but my mind also guides and thinks strategically about the moves I'm making, thinks long term about my future, has the plan, but then the heart, I surrender. I have the plan through the mind, and then I surrender to what comes and how it unfolds. I don't attach too strongly, and that's a feminine energy. I'm excited. I'm happy I came on to talk about this as it was live, and I feel good just sharing about this topic. So grateful for all of you beautiful people tuning into this episode. And of course, I love me some feedback. Would love to hear how it lands by way of a DM. Shoot me a DM, or by way of the comments. Leave us a comment, leave us a review, how you're digging the podcast, what you're loving about the podcast, maybe some angles that I haven't covered yet that you want me to cover, or some angles I have covered that you want to go deeper in. Or maybe, who knows, maybe it was even an angle on a conversational episode. So I would love to hear from you because it helps me continue to refine. And of course, I'll always love to feel the love, because the feedback lights me up so much when I see it. I'm like, okay, we've got folks tuning in and they're digging it and loving it. Thank you, Nicola. Keep going. Mm. Have a beautiful, beautiful day, you beautiful people. I look forward to seeing you next week. And until then, may all your unions be divine.